Okay.
Sounds great.
All right. So we're recording right now. All right, everyone. Hello. My name is T.I.E, T-I-E, which stands for Together Individual Entertainment. Today, I have my first podcast guest, Mr. Heller, or do they prefer Mr. H in your?
You know, Andrew is fine with me. I'm strictly not that pedantic that requires a sir or a Mr. So Andrew is fine with me.
Okay, so Andrew, basically you have your own podcast and you're a writer, and in some ways I feel like you're a director too, because you do films and everything like that. What exactly have you been talking about in your podcast? What's your podcast all about?
Well, actually, I don't do a lot of podcasts per se. I'm more of a guest on podcasts for other shows. Because I spend a lot of my time writing and traveling and participating in film festivals and talking about things that are important to getting my current theme or purpose and or film underway. And that is called A Gift of the Heart. And that's the book. Actually, if people are interested in buying the book, they can go to agiftoftheheart.com and purchase the book. And right now we're trying to raise enough, the rest of the funds that we need to shoot the film so we can get it out in the global community and help people.
Okay, so what is this book all about? Can you at least give us a little details now and then about this?
Sure. The story is very relevant to today's society, where it deals with immigration, it deals with social, economic disparities, and in this particular story, although it focuses on cancer, which is something close to my heart, the story predominantly turns between two different social standings, a Cuban immigrant and a very well-established attorney in the United States. And how the story progresses is the Cuban immigrant comes across with his wife to escape, the socialist economy of Cuba and start a better life. He has a 6-month-old son, and they make the journey across to Florida. Unfortunately, knowing Florida and knowing, the weather patterns that happen, they come up quick, the storms come through fast. And unfortunately, he loses his wife in the journey, and he makes it to the United States with his son. And then we jump 13 years ahead, where his son is now going into high school. He's a freshman, and, they live on the wrong side of the tracks. His father, was a janitor, an underground boxer in Cuba. He doesn't want to be a janitor anymore. And in order to make a living, he's uneducated. He doesn't have the skill. And so he goes into the underground world of boxing in the United States in order to survive. And what happens is his son meets this young lady, the affluent young lady. And now we have this battle between the social and economic battle between the rich, affluent family and the immigrant family. Now, the father of the young lady has, he's an attorney, and he has to spend a lot of his time defending immigrants and killers and stuff like that, which he absolutely hates. Plus, inside the story itself, we find out that the reason he's so bigoted and racist, that he hates anything that's other than, white, that he does not like immigrants, he does not like Cubans, he does not like Hispanics, is because he lost his sister to an immigrant when he was younger. And so this is a very big thing for him. So he has this battle with his daughter and his wife, because his daughter has now become friends with this waif, this Cuban boy, and they form this really great relationship. So we follow them through the story. We see the dynamics of the social, imbalance and the economic imbalance, and and the battle that goes on between the families. And the kids try to not incorporate that. They just want to be friends. They just want to be kids. But during the course of the story, we discover that the young man, Ali, has terminal brain cancer, which is glioblastoma multiforme. So he's got very little bit of time left when they discover it. It's usually 99.9% it's terminal. It's not something that is survivable, and it usually will take its patient down inside of a year. So we follow that story between him and this young lady. But the young lady has a problem as well. She has a very rare disease where her skeleton, when she was younger, did not grow at the right pace. So it caused her heart to be stuck in stasis. Well, now she's gotten into her teens, and her skeleton is growing, but her heart is now stuck. So the heart is too small to run the body. It's just like putting a small engine in a truck. The truck won't go. So she needs a new heart, but she also has a very rare blood type. Well, as the story progresses, we find out that the young boy has exactly the same blood type, but he's going to die. And there are laws against using organs from cancer patients for donation to other patients. So there's this other battle going on between the two kids, the two families, and all the other people in the film, and the kids involved. And without giving up the end of the story, you know,
I'm sorry, you're kind of like breaking up a little bit.
the story really explains it more in depth. Comes out, you'll really see. Oh,
Yeah,
am I? Oh, maybe
yeah,
it's the storms.
maybe. But basically,
What part did?
I basically got a lot out of that. But basically, what I'm hearing is when you're saying that the woman is dying and she's got this engine type heart, could that be related to a defibrillator in a way? Is that like a second way you could have said,
No, no, she's only 13, 14 years old,
Oh.
and the heart is too small to run the size of her body. So as her body grows, the heart is not growing with her. So the body is now consuming more energy, requiring the heart to do more, which the heart can't. So she's outliving the purpose of her heart, basically.
Wow.
And that's an analogy which I use with an engine is if you take a small engine and put it into a truck, at some point the engine's going to collapse because you don't have the engine is not big enough to cope with the size of the vehicle. So, that's the story on her end. And they're having difficulty finding a heart for her because she has this rare blood type. But the young Cuban boy has the same blood type. But they have to jump through a lot of hoops. The two families have to come together. There's a lot of dynamics that have to change because when the young boy dies, his wish is to give up his heart to her to help her survive. So we go through that whole dynamic, and then all the changes, all the psychological and emotional changes that the two families have to go through, a lot of acceptance, a lot of, seeing things how they truly are and what really has the greatest purpose.
Wow, that's a really strong message and everything. And I almost feel like when you talked about like the father or son that's going into boxing, I almost feel like Sylvester Stallone similarities right there because, in Rocky, he's got some troubles going on and he goes into boxing. I feel like there's some similarities to that in some way. And was that your inspiration for boxing, or was there another sport that you wanted to put in there before the boxing?
Actually, no. And Rocky really wasn't the inspiration for it. It was just the way the story developed in my brain. But I did, once I got really deep into the full story, especially towards the end, I started to notice some similarities to that kind of Rocky-esque, flavor, even though it doesn't represent that, but it represents it from a much smaller scale. But again, the whole purpose behind the movie is not only to entertain, but to also provide some faith base, and also to provide some hope, some humility, and really the purpose is to send a message, and that's what this movie is supposed to do, is not only, help people get over their animosities or their differences between people from different countries, because cancer does not care what language you speak. Cancer does not care what country you came from. Cancer does not care what gender you are. Cancer doesn't even care if you're an animal. Cancer is going to attack you, period. And cancer will kill you if it's given a half a chance. And the purpose of this movie is, again, is not to just make something that's entertaining, but is to send that message and send that purpose, and also to use 100% of whatever the net profits are to deliver to, children that are fighting cancer, families that are in need of financial assistance on a global scale. So it's not just something to put out there and make a bunch of money and feel, hey, look at me, I've won all these awards and this is a great film and I've made all this money. That's not the purpose at all. The purpose is to give 100% of the net profits to the people that need it on the ground. And that is the greater purpose behind this film. It has a mission, and they can see everything they want to see about it at agiftoftheheart.com. They can buy a signed copy of the book. They can buy shirts, merchandise, hats, all kinds of stuff. All of that goes to the same purpose, to help this film being made. Once the film is made, the money then starts getting divided up, and we start targeting people that need help so that we can get money to them.
That's amazing. Now, from what, basically you're talking about cancer and everything. What type of cancer specifically is in this story? Because there's like so many cancers, and my family, actually my stepdad's family lost his sister to lung cancer, and it's not just lung cancer. There's breast cancer. There has to be there's like a lot of cancer. So which cancer is it specifically in this story?
Correct. In this film, the specific cancer is glioblastoma multiforme, which is a form of a terminal form, a very aggressive. That we have. As far as the purpose is and how we attack, helping people in cancer crisis, it doesn't matter what cancer they have. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they're all devastating, regardless of whether you survive them or not. They are devastating to you economically, emotionally, and it affects everyone. I've lost my mother to cancer. I lost my sister to cancer 2 months ago. I've lost my best friend. I've lost several other friends to cancer, also brain cancer. So this is a big deal for me.
Yeah,
and that's why I've purposed this, to take it away from myself and take the focus away from myself and put the focus on, on this, on the film, the message it sends, and the people that it can help. I mean, that is ultimately the purpose, is with a film that goes global, with the money it can garner, I can affect and help as many people as I possibly can. Obviously, I cannot cure anything, but if I can put somebody in a motel for a week that's close to a loved one, save their car if they're going to repo it, make a mortgage payment for them, something, as opposed to just sitting back going, I'm helpless, I can't do anything. So I'm being proactive by doing this.
Okay, now your movie. Where exactly is this movie going to be filmed? And is this film just going to be a short film, or is it a film that's going to go in theaters?
This is a full-blown motion picture, and it will be filmed in Central Florida. And so it will be a feature-length film. We hope we will get it in theaters globally. We have some distributors who are interested. I have one that will take it globally. Obviously, we would like to have it in theaters, um, but we have a greater purpose as well. And we're thinking outside the box, not just theaters, not just online, but also taking this film to localities, in third world countries, to churches, with their language, encoded into it, and allowing them to do this film or show this film in a church or a locality where they're having difficulty, where they can do a red carpet event and they can garner funds from the community that will ultimately help the community or the people in that specific community fight cancer, and help people that are fighting that. So it has a very big reach, in a way, we really hope it does make it into the theaters, but that's just an unknown quantity at this point. We know what we want. But once we get the film done, we'll have a better path forward as to knowing, how of great a scope we can get.
Now, is there going to be some differences from the book into the movie, or is there going to be an opposite thing? Because when I read Harry Potter, there was like so many things that they didn't put in the movie because it was in the book and all that stuff. So is there going to be some things from the book that
The yeah, the book is very, very close to the film. There are some obvious things in the book that won't make it into the film because purely from an entertainment standpoint, they would be boring. You're going to sit there and you go, why did they put this in this film? It's putting me to sleep. There's a lot of language in books, and sometimes part of the story just doesn't lend itself to keeping an audience engaged in watching a movie. This particular book has, I would say, easily 90 to 95% of the book is part of the film. So, but there are some things in the book that will not make it into the film purely from that perspective, because you have to move people through the visual art as opposed to reading, and they don't lend themselves to that particular art.
Okay, so what's ever not going to be in the film, are you going to make that like the deleted scene, and when it comes on DVD or something, they could just watch deleted scenes in the DVD or whatever if it does make it?
There are some things in the book that we just won't shoot. It's purely a financial decision. I mean, if it doesn't lend itself to being in the film itself, there's no point in shooting it. It's very costly to shoot a film. You've got a lot of people on set every single day. You have to feed everybody. You have to make sure everybody's taken care of. There's safety issues, there are liability issues. So you don't want to shoot anything that doesn't lend itself to getting the film done. So those things will probably never make it onto a disc. There'll be some outtakes of some regular stuff. I'm kind of into that, which would come further down the line. And then there'll be, a director's cut where we may do a different cut at a later stage. But also our point is, while we're doing this, because there's a lot of background to this whole story of some of the people that are actually associated with it, like my friend Rich Larson, Donna Segura, one of my best friends, Joe Mast, another one of my very good friends who designed and gave me our mascot, Snibbity Gibbet, which it's a nice little character.
It definitely sounds familiar to me.
For our branded merch. Yeah, Snibbity Gibbet. He's a good little character. You have to check him out, and go to agiftoftheheart.com and you can see it all there. And that's my my friend Trevor Romaine, who has been writing children's books for, oh gosh, probably the last 40 years. But there are very, very good people in the background that don't get to be out front. That's kind of my job for the most part. But they're the people that are working behind the scenes, and they work very, very hard. So, I mean, if people want to know more, if they want to get involved, if they want to invest in the film, or they want to do product placement, you know, we have plenty of that available. Um, so, you know, I would suggest they go to Donna at oleandapr.com, and she can answer those questions, and we can fulfill a lot of dreams for people. If they want to put their product in the film, we'll use the money that, you know, we'll put their product in the film. We'll use the money that they give us to do that, to add to the budget, you know, to get the film made. So that's our focus right now, is to get the rest of our budget in. We've got $750,000. We need another 500,000. And once we have it, we can shoot the film. So our focus is to get that last 500,000 by August of next year, so we can shoot this film and get it hopefully out into the market in 2022.
Oh, that's good. So basically, since you're trying to raise money for some foundations and some charities and all that stuff, is Children's Hospital an option to when you're going to give money to them? You know, because there's a lot of children's hospitals out there that are trying to study cancer and find a cure for it and all that stuff. So are you planning to also raise money for children's hospitals that trying to help kids with cancer?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the whole purpose behind this is to take 100% of the net proceeds, divide it in half. Half of it will be controlled by Gift of the Heart Foundation, which will help people directly, personally. And then the other half will be, you know, will be divided up, you know, as the money comes in, as the profits come in, will be divided up to organizations. We have one called the Lost Travelers Club. This gentleman has that. And he lost his son to glioblastoma multiforme, and you know that, you know, some monies will be going to his foundation. We have the Much Foundation. We have, you know, a couple of other foundations. We have other children's hospitals, Base Camp, you know, and we're open to trying to help as many people as we possibly can. Obviously, you know, we can only help as far as the money will go. But we will try to divide it up as equally and as generously as possible to as many people that we possibly can.
Okay, and have you decided if the celebrities that you chosen for this movie, are they going to be new celebrities, someone that we never known before and they're just starting out their career, or is it celebrities that we do know and you just chose them randomly or something for your film? I'm sorry, you broke up at the beginning.
We have full bid sign the yeah, we did have two people, John Schneider from Dukes of Hazzard and Austin St. John from the original Red Power Rangers.
Oh my gosh!
But their agreements, yeah. But their,
oh my God, I'm a huge fan
recently,
of Power Rangers. I am. I'm a huge fan of Power Rangers. I'm surprised you even chose him. Oh my gosh.
So I actually know him personally. He's a great guy. But our original contracts have currently expired, and we're trying to renegotiate and get in touch with them again to have them recommit to the film. So, you know, that's kind of where we're at with them. I think it'll be a lot easier for us to do that once we get the rest of the budget in. So that's very critical for us. Again, you know, if we sell 60,000 of these books, we have our budget. Out of 320 million people, we need 60,000 to buy the book, A Gift of the Heart, and we'll have the budget to do the film. And I'm sure once we have that, and I go back to Austin and to John and I say, okay, you know, do you guys still want to participate? We have the budget together. I'm sure that they will agree, because they love the film, they love its purpose, and they are good people.
Now, are they going to play the parents of this film? And if they are, who's playing their kids?
Well, I had some kids picked out, unfortunately, because this has taken 6 years so far. Those kids have now outgrown the parts. So John actually plays the main doctor in the film. That's the part he liked. And Austin would be playing the husband, the attorney, the aggravating nasty man, as he put it. I can't believe I want to play such a jerk, but it's a good part. So
Yeah, I mean, basically, Austin has definitely shown some karate skills as he's done as a Red Ranger in Mighty Morphin. I mean, I definitely can see him as the boxer and everything. I mean, I think he did his own skills along with Jason David Frank. So basically, you made a very good choice with this person. I can definitely
Yeah.
see him in that ring.
Well, he has to come across in this. There's really no fighting. He has to really come across with a lot of emotion, a lot of internal strife, and he's in the trailer. If you go to agiftoftheheart.com, we shot the trailer. You can see it there. He's in it. So is John Schneider, and you can see the skill set that is there. And that's what we liked about him. Is to see, you can see on his face the internal battle that's going on, and that's what this movie's about. And in the end, he has to really suck it up and realize that this is critical to his daughter's longevity.
Okay, so from what I found out, during this whole pandemic, a lot of the schools have decided to go virtual and everything. Is this a good book for teenagers and English teachers to choose to talk about immigration, some medical problems, and a whole bunch of other things? Like, is it much simpler to pick that book out to talk about what's going on in real life?
Oh, absolutely. Because it is very true to life. I mean, when I formulated the story and wrote the story, at the time, um, there was nothing I could attach it to that represented real life. However, since I wrote the story and put it out there have now been several stories that have been global and have gone viral, that represent it really is true to the natural circumstances of day-to-day living.
Yeah, because with all the problems that we had during this pandemic and about immigration and, of course, the racial and everything, basically, I feel like this story could be a great compromise to the teenagers. Now, even though schools are going virtual, I still say now, basically, since they are going virtual, is there a audiobook that you did for your book?
There actually is an audiobook. Unfortunately, I have not been able to get it into a format that is viable as of yet. That's still something I'm working on, but it hasn't been a priority because we do have the actual book out, and we want them to go to agiftoftheheart.com to buy the book, because if they go to the site, one, they'll get my signature. I can personalize it for them, and two, we get most of the profit of that book. And that profit goes to help us make the film. If they buy it off Amazon or anywhere else, our profits are minimal. We would have to sell 10 times as many books if they do not buy directly from the site itself. The only other place we get where our profit margins are high enough to sell maybe 100,000 books would be lulu.com. And they could buy it there. And then our profit margins are also high enough would get us to that point where we have enough to make the film.
Okay. Now, I know you mentioned in the beginning you'd rather be a podcast guest than to have your podcast, but still, considering the fact that the pandemic has been happening and there's not much Arthur face-to-face stuff and everything, would you want to just read a little bit of your chapter 1 or one of your chapters into your podcast so they can get a feel about what this book is sort of about, or to feel, because when it comes to Arthur's and they're doing a Arthur signing or a face-to-face meeting or whatever, they'll take their book and read one of the chapters a little bit. So would you do that on your podcast so people can sort of get the feeling about meeting an Arthur or something like that?
Oh, sure. I mean, I've thought about actually posting maybe a couple of minutes, 3 to 5 minutes of a video of me reading from the first chapter, and just putting it out there. So, it wouldn't have to be part of a podcast, but anybody could pick it up and get a sense for how the story, how the story starts.
Yeah, because that's what I see most people doing. I see most people doing read-alongs on YouTube, or they're just reading a chapter on an audio or a podcast or whatever, because that's what I was doing with a Disney book called A Wisher's Guide to Starland. And I feel like this is a good thing because we're in the pandemic. We're not really going out much. So we got to figure out a creative way to get reading involved. And I feel like that's one of the things that you are working on currently with your other books. I mean,
Well, I tell you what, you know, I have a lot of other books. I mean, if you go to the site, you can see I have some children's books and other books there as well. But if you would like a copy of this,
I mean,
I can send it to you. Mail me the information. I would send you a copy of this signed by me. And if you want to do a reading thing on your podcast and read this book, you know, out there to your folks and your listeners and your watchers, you know, you're more than welcome to do so. In fact, I'd love you to do that.
yeah,
And I'll facilitate by sending you a book.
I mean, I feel like this is a good book for not just for me to read, but also for my mom or my stepdad. I mean, I feel like anybody who lost somebody to cancer or has medical problems or has got emotions or discrimination or something on their mind, this is like all together in one book that's perfect to read. And I mean, I could definitely see a great example in that book, no matter how many times I read it or if I never read it. It's definitely give me a description about what you said, saying this is the perfect book for people who have got problems in one simple book. So, I mean, that's a great thing
Exactly.
right there.
And the book is a story about life. It really is a story about life and how we handle things. And it sends a message that we need to be more loving. We need to be more caring. We need to have a little bit more humility and care about each other more. Because life is fleeting and it can be over quickly for one reason or another, and especially cancer. It's devastating. I mean, there's not a person on this planet that I know of that hasn't been affected by it one way or another, either personally or through a friend or a family member. And this book has been to Europe, to Africa, to South America. Spanish people have read it, German people have read it, Americans have read it. And it doesn't matter. It affects every single one of them. They're all affected by it because it really tells that story that crosses boundaries. It language and boundaries.
Okay, so since you have written children's books before, does this book give you inspiration to talk about one thing at a time in a children's book, like a book about discrimination and then another book about cancer, like simple children's books to make it simpler for the kids to understand or something like that?
I have two books, and the way I write is I don't write to preach to people, to try to get them to think the way I think. I write to tell them a story, to entertain them. And in that story, I give them the tools to absorb, for themselves, what is right, what is wrong, and visually see. I mean, my two children's books that are meant for older kids, one is called African Sunrise, and the other one is called Turn Your Heart On. Turn Your Heart On is about a little boy who lives with his mom. He does not have a dad. It's a single mom situation. And he learns, the value of life in his daily journey running around, picking flowers or watering flowers, and the meaning of, making things grow. How do you nourish them? The value of life in fishes and frogs and rabbits and stuff like that. So he learns that value in that story, in his actions during his day. The other one is about a white African boy and a black African boy who were friends. And they're friends because they live in this beautiful continent where there are all these wonderful exotic animals, and their friendship is about just being human and being children. They don't look at each other as being different culturally. They don't look at each other as being different in color. They are just friends, period. And when they're looking at all the animals, it teaches you to say, look, it's not just people that are different. They're different heights, they're different colors, they're different languages, there's different stories, there's different histories, but look at all the animals. You have tall animals, you have short animals, you have fat animals, you have elephants, you've got lions, you got tigers, so it teaches you to absorb the reality of the world as it exists, that there's so many things that are of such great beauty that if we looked at them and didn't like them because, well, I don't like the giraffe because his neck's too long, it's silly. I mean, it's just a beautiful animal. So it teaches the kids to look at life with open eyes and see the beauty in them, as opposed to judging them because they don't fit into someone else's or something they've been taught to believe is not right.
That's a really nice thing. I mean, after all, we are dealing with a life that is full of discrimination, and you wrote children's books to like tell a story between African American Black and African American White of being friends, and how the communication is a great way to make new friends, how to be responsible, how to respond to one another. I mean, it feels like there's always a communication that is very powerful in one way or another. So when you talk about discrimination, not just by racial or anything, have you also wrote a book about discriminating people with disabilities, like whether they're in a wheelchair or Down syndrome or specifically autism for me, because I have autism, and some people are discriminating people because, you know, some kids that have autism don't want to be touched. Some have a hearing disability, which means they don't want to hear loud noises. And of course, a lot of autism kids keep moving around, they keep jumping, making noise, and people are like complaining about these kids doing something like that, and they don't want these kids to, I mean, you see them in the news almost every day about disability kids not welcomed in the park at all, and they are being kicked out or not entering the park once they get to the entrance because of their disability. So will there be a discrimination book about having disabilities or something like that?
You know, at this point, I can't predict, because I always write whatever my heart feels is needed. But at this point, I'm so swamped with everything that I'm doing to get this movie made. It's become my primary focus right now. It's not under the realm of impossibility in the future, for sure, but I can't determine that at this point, because, you know, I really am focusing entirely on getting this done. That is my primary focus right now. And I have other stuff that is waiting to be worked on, but you know, I'm giving all of my time to A Gift of the Heart.
And that is a very powerful book. I mean, I can sense that you talk about discrimination, you talk about community, you talk about emotions, you talk about a whole bunch of things that is saying it loud and clear for reality. And whenever we're not getting through anywhere by a book, we're hoping that the book will be turned into a movie, and maybe then we'll understand it much better if we just see it with our own eyes or hear it better. But I definitely believe that you are a powerful author who talks about discrimination so much that you keep writing about these discriminations to make sure that we understand it much better in a way that we should, and try and talk about simpler and simpler to the children as you're writing not just teenage books but also kid books. So I mean, it's definitely a powerful motion right there, powerful words and everything. But in your book, A Gift of the Heart, is there a specific quote that you chose or wrote into the book that everybody might remember?
You know, offhand, I can't actually think of anything other than the thing that sticks out in my mind the most is the very end of the book, which is spoken by a priest, and basically says that, you know, through all the injustices that the world has given us, one must not confuse humanity and humility with the love for each other as human beings, and that this young man had made the biggest sacrifice of all. Not only did he emotionally give a gift, but he physically gave the greatest gift of all, the gift of life, to his best friend, and that was the gift of the heart.
Wow. That is wow. I have no words whatsoever for that. That's, oh my gosh. But in a way, is your book also going to be when do you think your book is going to be in stores and Barnes and Noble? Because in a way, I know most people can't afford online shopping because that's popular, and most people want to go to the bookstore to get out and, you know.
Yeah, unfortunately, the bookstores are very, very complicated, and they don't really stock anything anymore. So, the book is available at agiftoftheheart.com and lulu.com. And you can also get it online at Amazon and Barnes and Noble, but they don't very seldom anymore, unless you're, very well-known author, which I'm not as of this point. They're not going to stock the books. They're very difficult to get into. And then again, the profit margins as far as A Gift of the Heart is concerned are so minimal. I mean, if the book sells for, let's say, $25 in Barnes and Noble, I'd be lucky to get $1 out of that.
Wow. Okay.
The rest goes to the big corporations and everything else. So, but now, we sell the book for $20 at agiftoftheheart.com, and we get a good third of that out of that book.
Okay, so basically, here at Carnegie Museum of Natural History and Art, next door is like some sort of music auditorium or whatever it is. As soon as the pandemic is over and everything is sort of back to normal, would you want to try and get a hold of that music place or wherever, because many authors and people have come there and they have talked about their book. They got a signed copy of their book as they enter or something like that. So would you want to get a hold of that place once the pandemic is over and once you're done filming, so you can like get
we're really working on a lot of different avenues and a lot of different platforms on a global scale. I spend most of my time, as I said, working to try to get the rest of this funding together. So do, my coworkers that help and work in the background. My PR, she's working on a ton of stuff constantly. We're trying to get on the Ellen show and things like that. So, I'm sure that those things are being worked on. I'm sure that Donna at oleandapr.com is working very hard in the background. We talk when necessary. We're all exceptionally busy. We have lives on top of everything else. So, we communicate regularly, and I know that she's working diligently and very hard on.
Yeah, I mean, and
trying to get avenues begins, because it has gone quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, and when you are planning to go on to the Ellen show, what exactly will you be talking about on this book of yours in the Ellen show?
Well, we're we were getting very close to possibly being on the show in the summer, and then the pandemic hit, so it kind of shut everything down. So we've kind of been pushed back to the beginning. So we're starting the process again. We're hoping and we're praying, and having a lot of faith that perhaps we'll be lucky enough to be on our show sometime between now and the end of the year. If not, hopefully in the early part of next year. But these things, do take a lot of time. There's a lot of processes and a lot of steps you have to go through to get to that point. It's not like you can just pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Ellen, I want to be on your show." I wish it was that easy. There are a lot of hoops that you have to jump through, a lot of qualifications you have to meet, and then of course you have timelines, because they book people many months ahead of time.
And basically, if you can't make it to Ellen DeGeneres at all, what is your second option of a TV show or something? Like, have you thought about other shows to be on, or?
We are exploring every and any and all opportunities that are available. Podcasts, radio shows, television shows. We're chasing down every single thing we possibly can. We're open to anyone that will hear the story, that will give us an opportunity to hear the purpose and our mission.
Well, I mean, basically, I live here in the Pittsburgh area, and we have a morning show that starts at 9 a.m. KDK does this morning show called Pittsburgh Today Live, and maybe you can try and get a hold of them, see if you would like to be a guest on their show. You could talk about your book and things like that. You could do it virtually if you want, because that's what they've been doing since the pandemic hit, but they are back in the studio, but it's still virtual with the guests and everything. So would you want to consider being on Pittsburgh Today Live or something like that?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure my PR Donna is watching this, and she will pick up on that, and she'll pursue that. I will actually be in Louisville, Kentucky, the end of September for a week, and I will be bouncing from there to Minneapolis, Minnesota, Columbus, Ohio, and I'll be in close proximity to Pittsburgh as well. So those opportunities are obviously always open. And that is something we'll definitely consider if we can reach out to them and see if they're interested.
Yeah, and basically, Pittsburgh happens to be almost a secondary Hollywood, because we had a lot of films being filmed in Pittsburgh. The new Batman, which was Batman Dark Knight Rises. We had Inspector Gadget from 1999, starring Matthew Broderick. We've had Manhunt, Unabomber Season 2, which is about the 1996 bombing of the Olympics and all that stuff. We've had like a lot of films being filmed in Pittsburgh, and I would love it if you could bring one of your books to life into a movie segment again in Pittsburgh. I mean, after all, we want to like not just share Florida, New York, or anything like that, but also like share other movies that was filmed all over the place, as if the communities were coming together in one single place. So I mean, would you want to consider filming another thing from your book into a movie in Pittsburgh?
Well, once this one's filmed and it's out there, I have 3 other movies that are on deck that are ready to go, and they can be shot anywhere. So that makes it possible. But the primary focus is to get this one done. Once this one's done, it'll be a lot easier to get more funding, to get maybe a 3-picture deal, and then we can shoot wherever we want at that point. So we can make a decision. Okay, well, these movies are not specific to any particular place, so we can go shoot it in Pittsburgh. We could shoot it in LA. We could shoot it in Canada. It really doesn't matter, where we go. But this particular movie is very specific to Florida.
Oh, okay. So it's sort of like a summertime season way in your book.
It's a spring, summer thing. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, how long does it take for you to get a film done exactly? Like, is there a specific number you want, or can it take any kind of time?
For the most part, on averages, any film like this. Now, we're not talking, mega productions that spend hundreds of millions of dollars, to shoot, that take 6 to 8 months to shoot, where you have big stars. A film like this would take approximately 6 months from start to finish. By the time you start it, you have pre-production, then you have your shooting days, then you have post-production where you edit it all together. You got to add sound effects and music and post and all that kind of stuff. And then you finally, you go through a rough cut, a finished cut, and then you go through several things. And then you finally come out with a finished product that is ready to be released into the market at the end of about 6 months. Whereas other productions, they will take 6 months just shooting. It'll take them a year and a half before that film can actually come out.
Now, as you said before, you had kids on the mind, but it's been 6 years and they have grown up and everything. Will there be auditions
Mhm.
held in Florida for brand new kids main role, or are you just gonna wait until the
Well,
pandemic?
the 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 rest of the auditions, I mean, we have a very limited cast at the moment. Most of the cast is not filled, and when it comes time to do that, we will negotiate with kids all over the country. Um, Depending on our budgetary constraints and whether they fit the role. I agree or the director agrees that we found the right person to play the lead roles. The rest are up for grabs from anyone that has the right qualifications and is willing to either travel to Florida to perform locally, or we will use what locals we can't find to fill the spots. We will definitely look across the country for the acting expertise that we need, but
Okay.
we won't do that until we've got our budget finished. We won't go full blown into casting until we know that all the money we need to start filming is there.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Are you planning to, let's just say, are you planning to put in a little bit of, sometimes in books there happens to be a romantic scene or romantic thing that says "I love you" or whatever. Are you planning to put in like a romantic, uh, a love scene or whatever between a man and a woman? Like is he gaining love again?
There there's no scene in the film itself that is that explicit, but there is a love connection that happens between between Juan, Ali's dad, Juan the boxer, and his girlfriend, who happens to live in the same apartment complex that he does, and she pursues him, and they form a relationship out of that. So there is some love to be found, but there's nothing. There's no bedroom scenes or anything
I
explicit like
know
that.
I couldn't find the word to describe that. So I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Um, so basically, the friendship part of the children, is that going to be best friends who are boys, or is it best friend between a boy and a girl?
It's best friends between a boy and a girl.
Okay, because sometimes in books it can happen like often best friends that they grow up as child could be best friends as they grow up from like boy, or sometimes a romantic relationship can be between a boy and a girl as they grow up from childhood as well. So I feel that is something that I want to get clear in my mind to make sure I understand what the relationship is all about in this book, so that way we can understand that even as kids or teenagers, we could find friendship and love and caring along the way. And it definitely seems like that is happening in the book all over the place. You're finding people who care about you, you're finding people who are supporting you, you're finding a whole bunch of things in this book that says it all. And
Absolutely, there are a lot of dynamics in the book. The friendship starts because she's protective of him. He's bullied. He's sick. She's sick. They have a commonality. They become really good friends. They start getting into that early stage of the young teen love kind of situation, and they have a good time together, but they know that the time is limited. So there is that dynamic. So it's learning all those nuances of how love and how relationships flourish and grow, and then sometimes ultimately don't work out for one reason or another. And in this case, it's Ali. Ali does not survive the story.
oh my goodness. Now, also, basically, as you know, filming sometimes can go wrong, and there are some problems and everything. Since you're in Florida, and Florida happens to be the most vulnerable and the most targeted for hurricanes and tornadoes and everything, if there was a storm or something that was going to hit you as you were filming or whatever, would that film be delayed, or would you wait until like the storm is over?
Oh, absolutely. You have to shut down. I mean, safety is always your primary concern on set, not only for all the equipment, all the personnel working the equipment, all the personnel behind the camera, but also for the actors. So safety is always your primary concern, and there are a lot of factors that go into safety. It's not just storms, it's not just weather and lightning. It's also where equipment is, safety nets, so people don't trip on equipment doesn't fall. And with the new COVID practices, you got to make sure people are safe and sanitary, and are keeping a distance when they don't need to be close up and in front of the camera. That things are operating the way they should be in the best interests of everybody. So safety is always primary when you're on set. And if a hurricane is coming, you shut down the production till the hurricane passes, and then you pick it back up afterwards. I mean, but you always put the safety of everyone and the production first. Equipment is one thing, but people are your primary concern. Safety is always number one.
Okay. And so here's my last question. Due to filming, and you were talking about safety, are you going to make sure that you guys have people who know electricity and some technical things? Because sometimes technical things can kind of blow up on you. There's smoke, there's some sparks, and a whole bunch of other things. So are you going to make sure that you also have safety people, like, checking on the electrical equipment, and because people normally check them, but as soon as you start, there has to be something wrong and you got to double check and everything. So are you going to make sure that you have people like that as well? And also,
well, when the way movie sets are designed is you have key people that their biggest responsibility is to make sure everything is viable, everything is legal, everything is being done properly, safely, and that everything operates. Now, obviously, sometimes you do have some accidents, but you've got key people. You've got what they call the electrical stuff. Those things are checked daily. They made sure that your cables are connected properly, that it's covered, there's no exposed, there's things like that. And so constantly
okay.
making sure that everything is safe, equipment is safe. Lighting is tagged. If a light happens to come off a pole, it has a cable to it, so it's not going to fall to the ground and hit somebody. It'll just hang on that pole. So there are a lot of safety procedures and technicalities that are taken care of as part of the crew's job that work behind the camera.
All right. Well, Andrew, I want to thank you for being on my podcast, and I hope your book goes very well, and I hope you also raise enough money for, helping people with cancer and everything. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, and you're very welcome. And I hope all your watchers and your listeners really enjoy this, and I encourage them again, go to agiftoftheheart.com, order your book, or get Snibbity Gibbet, get a shirt, get a hat, anything you like. I'll send it out to you with my signature on it, and help us get this movie made.
All right. Thank you, and have a good day.